American conservatives have an idea for improving the world situation. They are supported by politicians from other countries, including Poland. US President Donald Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance, and former Prime Minister, and now head of the European Conservatives and Reformists, Mateusz Morawiecki, on one stage at the CPAC conference. This is the largest event of its kind held in America, but is aimed at conservative circles around the world. The conference is held every year, but the current edition may prove to be groundbreaking.
Good morning.
Washington, D.C. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance on one of the most important and anticipated speeches at this year's Conservative Political Action Conference, also commonly known as CPAC, on the revolution of common sense, not only in America, but around the world.
That friendship is based on shared values. You do not have shared values if you're jailing people for saying we should close down our border. You don't have shared values if you cancel elections because you don't like the result, and that happened in Romania. You do not have shared values.
CPAC.
CPAC is the largest annual conference of conservative circles held since 1973 in the United States.
In opposition to the globalist cabal represented at the EU, the Sao Paulo Forum, the UN, the WHO, and the World Economic Forum, and myriad other organizations funded by leftist elites. These self-anointed global elites.
The previous editions of the conference have included Presidents Ronald Reagan, George Bush,
for the invitation.
We believe in free speech.
And Donald Trump, who will deliver his speech on Sunday. Surely Donald Trump will also want to act more broadly than in just terms of domestic issues, to influence the political establishment in Europe. Earlier today, a guest from Poland, former Prime Minister and now Chairman of the European Conservatives and Reformists, Mateusz Morawiecki, appeared before the American audience. I would refer to President Trump's words from his inauguration a month ago when we were talking that the world now needs common sense, a revolution of common sense, a revolution of rationality. And I think this is such a common denominator of very many Republican movements, European and American. Because, although CPAC is held in the United States, it attracts conservatives from different continents. This opposition to the whole globalist puzzle, which has been under the rule of liberals and even one could say leftist forces for a dozen years or so, is extremely important for the reason that the whole balance of power in geopolitical terms is changing. And without a doubt, since these last few days, especially since J.D. Vance's speech in Munich, we are living in a completely different geopolitical system. The current rulers of Poland are also aware of this. Americans are well aware of how Donald Tusk's people are trying to censor independent media and restrict one of the fundamentals of democracy, freedom of speech. It was CPAC that stood up for TV Republica when Deputy Prime Minister Krzysztof Gawkowski announced that our license would be revoked.
This is important because we have free speech in America, we have the First Amendment, and unfortunately in Europe, Western Europe especially, we have seen the end of free speech, the criminalization of thought and of speech. And that separates the continent of Europe from the United States. Also a problem in Britain. With J.D. Vance's words were critically important, reminding Europe that it needs to keep its democratic policies and protections. And right now, the Europeans are moving in authoritarian directions.
The CPAC conference will continue until Saturday. We will report on its progress, especially for you, on our station.